Hello and welcome to another CG tip. I recently finished working through a series of videos where I introduced you to Python. This was part of the main Rigging in Maya series and helped us to create an automatic quadruped rigging tool. Even though I covered lots of areas of scripting, I didn't get the opportunity to finish the script off and give it a proper user interface. So what I want to do in this video is take the script and rectify that by showing you how to build a scalable user interface while also making the tool more flexible. Now don't worry, you don't need to have worked your way through the previous videos where we create the rest of the script, but it is advisable as I will be referencing things shown in those scripts. I also won't be going into lots of details over what I'm doing and why, so again it is recommended that you go back and watch those videos first and then watch this one at the end. So here we have the scene we were working with previously and the script we created here. You can download both of these as part of the quadruped scene files from any of my online stores. Now don't worry if your script editor looks different to this. I'm using a plugin called Charcoal Editor, which I use for all my scripts. You can download a trial version of this from here, but you don't need it to follow along. So the way the script currently works is we need to change this part here to tell it whether we are working on the front leg or the rear leg. Both need to be set up slightly differently, so this enables us to quickly do that. Eventually, this will be done through the UI. It's not ideal for you to have to edit the script each time you want to change this. As an example, if we want to work on the rear leg, we change this to 1. We select the root of the skeleton and then run the script using this button here. Again, all this is covered in the previous videos. So that leg is now rigged. Let's rig the front leg now. So we first need to change this to 0 because it's not the rear leg. Now save the script and run it again with the root joint of the front leg selected. And that's the front leg rigged too. Nice and easy and quickly too. What we need to do is eliminate the need for anyone to edit the script directly and create a basic UI. Something similar to this one, which I created as part of my rig mirroring tool. First we need a new function which will build the UI for us. I can copy this and paste it down here, and let's add UI to the name. Let's also add a comment too. Okay, good. For now, let's just make this print something, so we know it's running. Plus, we can't leave a function empty because it will just give us an error. Now we've done this, we need to update the commands we use to actually run the script. So let's just quickly edit the code in the button. I can just right click and go to edit. All we need to do is update this section here so it points to the UI function. Okay, let's test that now. Okay, good. We can see the text has been printed above. Okay, so let's remove that now and start to build the main window. First we add in a check to make sure the window doesn't already exist. You don't want two versions of the window open, and in some cases if you try it will cause errors and other conflicts. So it's better to close the window if it already exists before you open it again. We start with an if statement and follow it with the window command. I'll open the flags. We need a name for the window, so let's call it AutoLimTool UI. Here you can see the exists flag, so we are going to use this to see if the window named AutoLimTool UI already exists. To do this, we simply type comma ex equals 1. Ex is an abbreviated version of the exists flag. What this line will do is return a true or false statement depending on whether the window does or doesn't exist. If it's true, it can do the next command. What we can do is use another command, delete UI, and just tell it to delete the UI called AutoLimTool So that's all we need to do. If the window doesn't exist, the script will simply move on. Let's make some room down here. Okay, let's now create the window. I'm going to put this command into a variable called window. It just makes referencing it later easier. We use the window command again. Oops, change this to commands, CMDS. We use CMDS before the command because this references the Maya command library. Again, something we cover in the previous videos. So you have to have this line here at the start of your Python script. So let's give the window a name first. The same one we have here will do. And we can use a T flag to give it a title. Let's say AutoLimTool and give it a version too, so 1.0. It's good to have a version number in your scripts so you can keep track of updates. We can give it a size next, so W is width and H is the height. 200 by 200 should be fine for now. I'm going to add 2 more flags now and set those to 0. All this will do is remove the minimize and maximize buttons from the window. It just makes it less cluttered, and this is going to be a small window anyway, so we don't really need them. Okay, so that line will create the window, so let's now tell Maya to display it. All we need is the show window command, and then the name of the window we want to show. So we could use this, but I'm going to use the window variable instead, just to make sure. Okay, let's save that and see what we have. So you see, with just those 2 lines of code, we've generated a blank window. It's a start. Close it now, and let's add some content. Before we start to add any buttons or menus, we need to give the window a layout. Now there are many different layouts available depending on what you need, but it's essential as it will allow us more control over where the contents are placed. Next we need to define how many divisions it has. Again, this helps when positioning content. We can use the ND flag for this, which is number of divisions, and set it to 100, which is a nice round number, and we can also use it later to represent a percentage of the window size. Now let's start adding some controls. We create the controls first and then we position them later. For a full list of controls available, you can look in the Maya scripting documentation. Experiment with some of the other options and see what works best for your window. First we need a way to choose which leg we are rigging, the front or rear. We could use a number of approaches like using radio buttons or a slider. I like to keep things simple with a drop-down menu. Using this also leaves the script open to future updates, as you can simply add another option to the menu without affecting anything else. Again, I'm going to use a variable so we can reference this later. Leg menu will be fine. And we need the option menu command. We can call it leg menu. Let's keep things consistent. Next we use the L flag to give it a label, so we can tell the user what this menu is for. Which leg should be fine. We'll give it a height of 20. I'll just show the flags. Here we go. What I also like to do is use the AN flag, which will give this control an annotation. This just helps the user to know what each option will do without having to dig through any documentation. It also saves you having to write any documentation. So that's the menu setup, so now we need the options which will go inside it. We can add these next with the menu item command. And all we are going to do is give it a label. So this will be front. And I can just copy this and change this one to rear. Nice and easy. Okay, let's look at that now. So there's the window, and inside it is the menu with our two options. Okay, good. Once the user has decided on the leg they're going to rig, they need a way to activate the main script. So let's add a button next. Again, I'll use a variable, and then the button command. Where are the flags? There we go, L for label. So we need to give the button a name. Let's just put go. But you could put something else like build rig or build leg or generate rig, whatever you like really. What we need to do next is add the command flag, or C for short. This will tell the button what command to run when it's pressed. So we can simply tell it to run the auto limb tool function. Let's run this again. There we have the button. If we press it now, you see we get an error. It's saying that auto limb tool takes no arguments but one is given. Arguments are added in the parentheses after a function. This makes them more flexible and gives them the ability to pass things to each other. What's happening is the button is passing an argument to the auto limb function. Lots of the elements will do this by default, but because it doesn't have anything in parentheses, it doesn't know how to handle it. All we need to do now is add *args into the parentheses. This will just act as a way to catch that argument. Okay, let's try this again. And press the button. So we have another error, but this is absolutely fine. We added this into the original script to make sure the user had a joint selected. So this shows us that the button is working and it's actually running the correct part of the script. At this stage, we can run the script from the UI, but it's ignoring the menu. Let's get the script to look at the menu to find out which leg it's working on. We use the isRearLeg variable to tell it which leg we want to rig. So we can continue to use this, but set it to 1 or 0, depending on what the menu is set to. Let's use another variable and call this which leg. What we need this to do is check the menu and report back. We can use the option menu command again, and we actually need the name of the menu. Here it is, leg menu. So let's use this so we are looking in the right place. All we need to do is use Q, which will put this into query mode, and then say we want to query the value using v equals 1. There they are. If I select this bit of code now and run it, you can see it's returned front, which is what the menu is set to. If I change this to rear and run the script again, we get rear this time, so that's working. The results of this command will be stored in the which leg variable, so we can use them later. So now let's use an if statement to set up the isRearLeg variable. So we can do if which leg equals front, or what I like to say in my head is if which leg is equals to front. It just means I remember to put two equals in there rather than just one. If I just added one equals in there, it would just set which leg to front. Then set isRearLeg to 0. So basically, if which leg is front, then we set isRearLeg to 0. We can then use else to catch the result if it's not the front leg, and then set isRearLeg to 1 instead. So this will read the menu and set up the script for us, so it rigs the correct leg. No need to go in and edit the script manually anymore. Okay, let's try this now. I'll do the back leg first. So select the root joint, open the window. I need to change this to rear and press go. I can see that's worked because in the output we have the text we added which tells us it's the rear leg. And that's rigged. Okay, let's try the front leg. So, select the root joint, change this to front and click go. Done. Great. So that's working, but the UI is a little ugly. The Go button is overlapping the menu's label for a start. Now it's working though, we can start to play around with the layout. We created a form layout earlier, up here. So what we need to do now is simply edit it to arrange our controls. So we use the form layout command again, and tell it we want to use the main layout. You could give the layout a name, like we have with the controls, as an alternative, but using a variable means it will catch the default name of the layout for you. This is just a safer way to do it, just in case a layout with the same name exists. Now we use the E flag, which puts this into edit mode. And we need a comma. When building elements like this, I like to drop to a new line, just to make things a little clearer. We are still editing the form layout, so it's still the same command, we are just moving down a line. It's important to keep that in mind so we retain the correct syntax. Next we are going to use the attach form flag. You can see it listed over here. So this is a flag, not a command. We could use AF instead, but again, I think this keeps things neat, especially when working on building a UI. So what this flag will do is allow us to attach each control to the form layout, or to the window basically. First we need to keep all these in brackets, so let's add some now, and separate them so we can work between them. Let's update the menu first. So we need parentheses, and the name of the control, leg menu, and then tell it where we want to attach it. So let's keep this at the top of the window. You are then given the option to specify an offset, so let's set this to 5 pixels from the top of the window. That's the top done, so we use a comma to separate this from the next item. Let's copy this because we are working on the same control. 2 copies will be fine, and just change top to left and right. So the leg menu is now going to be attached to the top, left and right of the window. This not only helps you organise your controls, but as the window scales, the control will scale with it. Let's remove the comma at the end because this is the last edit we are doing for now, and let's save and run the script. So there you can see the control is now stretching to fill the window. If we wanted, we could also attach it to the bottom too, but that wouldn't be useful in this instance. Okay, let's do the same but on the button. We need a comma at the end again because we are adding more updates. Let's copy this line. And paste it below. Again, this just keeps things neat, so I know each control's options are on a separate line. We are working on the button, so change leg menu to button. We will use the variable name here, but you can use the actual control name if you prefer. So this time we want the button to be attached to the bottom of the window, so let's change top to bottom. We don't want it attached to the top because it will overlap the menu. Okay, let's save again and test it. As you can see, the button is now attached to the bottom of the window and both sides. We can also adjust the window and everything scales with it. So at this stage we could leave this window as it is. It does what we need and the controls look okay. But as with everything, we could go further. I'm going to add another element now, and that's a separator. I'm going to use the H flag to set it to 5. I'll bring up the flags. Would help if I spelt it correctly. There we go. So H dictates the height, just like we used in the other controls. What a separator will do is create a divider, and this could be a line or just a gap in the UI so you can separate elements to make the UI easier to read. I'm going to add this between the menu and the button. So I'll copy this and paste it between them here. You don't need to keep them in order like this, but again, I like to keep things neat so I know how things are laid out in the window. I'll update these two to be the separator, and I'm going to delete this one because I just want this attached to either side. Okay, let's run this. An error. This is because I forgot to add a comma at the end here. There we go. That works now. It's small, but you can see a thin line here, just above the menu. That's the separator. I want to move this now so it's below the menu. To do this, we need a new flag. This one is Attach Control. So rather than attaching to the sides of the window, this will give you the ability to attach one control to another. It works just as above, so we need brackets which the options will sit inside. Again, we need the name of the control, so separator 01. This is followed by the part of the control we wish to attach. We want this to be beneath the leg menu, so the top of the separator is the part we are focusing on. We then give it an offset, so let's use 5 again. And finally, we specify the control it's attaching to. That should be all we need at this stage. We just need another comma here. So if we run this, the top of the separator is now attached to the menu. Okay, I want another separator now, so let's copy this and update the name to 2. And between these separators, I'm going to add 2 new controls, and these are checkboxes. The first we will call roll check. We will use this to control whether the roll joints are created or not. Next, we use the checkbox command. We will need to give this a name so we can access it later from a different function. Let's use roll check again. We use the L flag to give it a label, so roll joints. And a helpful annotation. In addition to this, we will use the V flag, which specifies the default value. So 0 means this control will be unchecked. Okay, let's copy that. And we will create another checkbox. This one will be stretch check. This will give us control over whether the leg is built with stretchy limbs or not. Just update these. Okay, run that. So we have the checkboxes up here in the corner and the separator at the top, so we need to position them now. First, let's move the checkboxes. I'll copy this and change this to roll check. So what we want to do is attach the top of the roll check checkbox to the bottom of the first separator. That should move it down here. Let's do the same with stretch check. Finally, let's move the second separator. I'll do this with the attach form flag first. I can copy this and update the name. So this will attach it to the sides, and now let's attach it to the bottom of the checkboxes. So copy this and change 1 to 2, and attach the top of it to the roll check checkbox. While we're here, let's also adjust the button. So let's attach the top of the button to the bottom of the second separator. This will give us a nice big go button and also fill in some space. Okay, let's run that. So things are starting to look a little bit better now. We have our huge button, the second separator here, but the problem we have is the checkboxes are overlapping. The good thing is we can adjust the window size and the elements are scaling with it. Well, the checkboxes aren't just yet. So let's update those. This time we will use a different flag, attach position. This flag is really useful because it allows you to simply specify a position in the window where you want the control to be. Let's copy this line to start us off. So we want the roll checkbox and we want the left side of it. The next two values are the offset and the position value. The position value is a percentage of the overall window based on the number of divisions you specified earlier. Because we used 100, it makes things easier as we can treat that more like a percentage value. So for example, if we wanted the left side of the roll checkbox to be in the middle of the window, we would simply put 50 because that would be around 50%, so halfway. We don't want to be that far in, so let's maybe use 15% instead. Let's copy that and update the stretch checkbox. And this time let's attach the right side of that to around 85% point. So around here. Okay, that should do it. Let's test it. So you see the left side of the roll joint checkbox is now 15% across the form. And the right side of the stretch checkbox is at the 85% point. The good thing about using the attach position flag is we can still adjust the window scale and they move with it because they are sticking to those percentage points. Okay, good. So we have these checkboxes now, so let's add them into the main script so they're actually used. We added this section to read the menu, so let's also read the checkboxes. First we need a variable where we can store the information. Roll check will do. All we need to do is use the checkbox command again. And we need the actual name of it this time, again because we're accessing it from a different function. So we can copy this down here. We're going to use the query flag and we want to query the value. Because we have the window already open, I can select this line and run just this part to make sure it's working. So that's returned false because the roll joints checkbox isn't checked. If I check the box and run it again, we get true, so that's working. Okay, let's create another line. And update this to check the stretch checkbox. Let's test that to make sure I got the name right. Okay, good, that came back false. Now we have that set up, it's very easy for us to use the variables to control which areas of the script run. And this is purely down to the way we created the script previously, so everything is in its own section. Let's find the part where we add the roll joints. Here it is. All I need to do is use an if statement. If roll check. Basically, if roll check is true, run the script after it. If it's false, skip it. We just need to make sure the code which builds the roll joints has an indent, so it's inside the if statement. We can do this quickly by selecting it and pressing Tab. Alternatively, to remove an indent, you can select the lines of code and press Shift plus Tab. Okay, let's copy this and move to the stretchy part of the script. Here it is, and do the same, but use the stretch check variable instead, so it looks at the right checkbox. Also make sure all the code affected has an extra indent. So that should be all we need to do. Let's save the script, close the window and run it. Okay, we can close this now. So select the root joint, and we are working on the rear leg. Let's not add any roll joints or make it stretchy. And we just click go. So that should be rigged. I can't see the roll joints, which is a good sign because we didn't specify we wanted any. Let's set stretchiness to 1. It's important to point out that these attributes are already on the rig. They aren't added as part of any scripts. Okay, the leg moves, and it's not stretchy. Great. Alright, let's undo that. This time we will add the roll joints and also make it a stretchy limb. Okay, good. There are the roll joints. And the limb is stretchy. Let's try the front leg. This time we will just turn off stretchiness, change this to front, and click go. So that's rigged with the roll joints. If I increase the stretchiness value, nothing happens. Perfect. So there you go. We've added a simple UI to our script which has finished it off nicely and made it a lot more user-friendly. I'll make this available as part of the quadruped source files if you want to download it. And remember that if you want to see how the whole script was made, check out the rest of my Introduction to Python series. Well, we've come to the end of another video. If you found it useful, please hit that like button to show your support. While you're at it, you could also subscribe and enable notifications so you are kept up to date with future videos and community posts. If you have any questions or suggestions, please post them in the comments below or contact me through the antCGi Club Twitter account and I will try my best to reply. Alternatively, you could post them in the antCGi Club Discord server where I spend more of my time. You can find an exclusive invitation to join in the description below. Remember that you can also join the antCGi Club to help keep future videos free whilst also getting access to exclusive rewards like scripts, models and rigs. Alternatively, if you would just like to show your appreciation, why not treat me to a coffee at my coffee page? The link is on the screen now and in the description below. Thanks again, this is antCGi signing off and I will see you on the next one.